Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Racers News Network Live. We are traveling down a different road tonight, a series that I happen to be a huge fan of. And we're lucky enough that we have one of the competitors from the Mazda MX-5 Cup Series joining us this evening. Of course, I am talking about Sally Mott. Sally and I have been trying to connect for a couple of months now, and it just never seemed to line up. But we were finally able to get connected. And like I said, we're going to learn a little bit more about some road racing stuff and about Sally's career. She's a young professional driver again in the Mazda Motorsports Whelen MX-5 Cup Series. So please say good evening to Sally Mott. Good evening, Sally. How are you?
Good. I'm doing great. Just getting ready for St. Pete, living the life.
You spent more time in Florida in the past 3, 4 weeks than I have in the past 50 years.
I know it's been crazy. I just got back from about 5 days in Florida for the Daytona 500. So it's been amazing. I got to see the president was there. The Thunderbirds came over the track at least 10 times, and I got to see some amazing racing. I got to see that flip in person. It was quite insane. Yeah, very inspirational, I would say.
Cool. Yeah, now you're talking about Ryan Preece's flip, correct?
I am. That was gnarly.
Yeah, he that 2 years in a row he's gone over like that.
It's
So,
crazy.
and actually I'm friends with Ryan's uncle. He races up here in New England. He's a drag racer.
Nice.
So, yeah. Um so let's talk about you, young lady. You're 20 years old. You just had a birthday. Belated birthday to you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. How long have you been racing?
I have been racing for 5 years now. It's kind of crazy for me to say because it's gone by so fast. I've been in a go-kart since I was 8 though. I didn't race until I turned 15. Started in karting and then did some local Spec Miata stuff. And then all of a sudden, got invited to the MX5 Cup shootout and won. And then kind of just did my first season last year and learned a lot, learned so much, and was like, man, I got to come back for another year because this is amazing.
Now, with your karting career, were you road course, were you oval, or were you doing both sides of the fence, so to speak?
I was doing road course. The only oval race I've ever done was actually Martinsville in the MX5. So I
Yep, the end
don't
of
have
last year.
background in oval, but I do kind of want to kind of transition into oval stuff maybe in a couple years, maybe some NASCAR ARCA stuff. But that's a good question though, for sure.
That's awesome. So, what was it like making the transition from a small open cockpit, single cylinder go-kart into what is, as they say during the broadcast, a legitimate full-blown race car?
Man, I mean, definitely a transition. There was a lot of learning and a lot of mistakes that had to be made for me to get acquainted to all of the stuff that is happening in MX5 Cup. There's a lot to digest and a lot to process. Um, my transition from karts to cars definitely wasn't easy. It took me at least, I don't know, 4 to 5 races to just get a handle on the car and not spin out because there's so much going on with, the weight transfer and then there's shifting and the brakes are just different and it's all so different from a go-kart. So it did take me a little while to get used to cars and then let alone the MX5 Cup cars are a whole different story.
Now let's dive into the car itself a little bit. Like I said, it is for all intents and purposes, it is a straight up legitimate race car, but it's based on a street car, and it has a lot of really cool features, and it has the sealed motor and everything. So why don't you give everybody kind of a little background on the MX-5 Cup car?
So the MX-5 Cup car has ABS, it has power steering, and it's also a sequential. So instead of an H pattern or paddle shifters, to shift up, you're pulling the lever backwards or the shifter, and then to downshift, you're pushing it towards the dash. So it's a very unique combination of features for a Miata. And then we also have, as you can see, the side profile. It has an open cockpit, so terrible for aerodynamics, right? I mean, top speed, So it kind of requires you to be bump drafting in order to be fast, especially at tracks like Daytona. You've got to be with somebody or ideally a couple of cars to be on pace. And it's the case with most tracks, like you want to be bump drafting. So it makes for amazing racing, as you know. um, Contact sport, 100% makes for entertaining stuff, really good racecraft. And these cars don't have a ton of horsepower; they have about 181 horsepower. And so you don't have all this horsepower to get you out of the corner if you mess it up. It's all about momentum and it's all about driver skill and driver talent. And everything is spec. So, everyone is the same. It's all about what can the driver do. And it just, man, it makes for amazing racing. And as a driver, it's a lot of pressure because I get stressed out. I'm like, oh my God, we're going 10 wide into turn one. Like, how is this even possible? But we make it work somehow.
Absolutely. Now, you also had the opportunity I saw to visit Flish Performance, and was that the first time you had the chance to go to Flish and check out how everything was put together?
It was, yes. It was actually very cool because they are assembling cars, taking them from street cars and making them into race cars. I mean, it's crazy because we're literally racing stock street cars and they just have a roll cage. They have a little bit of things changed to them, but I mean, it's pretty much a street car. So that's what they do at Fliss Performance. And it was pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, yeah, because they literally come off the boat, are transported however they get them to Flish, and then they just strip them down, pull the motor, seal the motor, and then rebuild them as a full-blown race car.
Yep. It's crazy.
It is. It's very cool. So last year being your first year in the MX5 Cup Series, first off, obviously Mazda brings a lot besides the cars to that series. It's an incredible um, entry level. Well, entry level is kind of a obviously generic word. There's really no such thing as entry level. There's a lot of I can't think of the word. Help me out.
Rookies?
They bring a lot to the series for the drivers.
Oh, grassroot. I mean, right?
Rappers, there we go. I get the magazine. You think I would just,
Yeah,
but yeah, they bring a lot to the series, don't they?
they do. They give back quite a lot to their scholarship winners, number one. I won the scholarship in so I won the scholarship in 2023 for the 2024 season. I won $75,000 to go towards my 2024 season. And then Mazda, that year that you win the scholarship, they are just behind you the whole time. They're supporting you, they're putting you out there. And you are their scholarship winner for the year. And there's three of you. I won the Women's Initiative Scholarship. There's the initial one, and then there's the secondary one. And so us three, we were kind of like Mazda's poster child for that year in the series because we were the three scholarship winners, and they helped us so much. I mean, it literally changed my life. And they do so much in the grassroots as well. They have Spec MX5 and Spec Miata, and you'll see Mazda Motorsports doing social media posts with the local Spec Miata guys. Like they're just spreading love around everywhere, and that's why everyone loves Miata racing is just because first of all, it's the most affordable type of racing, but everyone is so involved and they just want to see you succeed from the grassroots. They want to lift you up and give you an avenue to hopefully make it to the top levels, which is really cool. So
Of
I'm very
course,
happy to be in the Mazda family.
that is awesome. Yeah, I mean, when I first discovered the series a few years ago, and really started watching it. I was truly amazed at what they give back to the teams and the drivers. So it's very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so your car, obviously it's a little bit different than last year. You had a change in teams. Um, the beginning of this year, to say it nicely, I guess was a little bit rough for a lot of people.
Yeah. It was definitely. Daytona was not a good weekend. It was kind of one to take what I can to learn from and then forget about it. Race 1 was it was rain, and it literally started sprinkling on the grid. We all had slicks on, and then they made a last minute call to put on wet tires. I had never driven on the wet tires. I've never raced in the rain. I've driven in like moist. I know everyone hates that word, but like moist conditions with dry tires on. And so, I mean, I get the fundamentals. I've done kart races in the rain, but I've never done an actual like full blown rain race in a car, let alone an MX5 Cup car, which is a whole different animal. Um, and so you can imagine how stressed out I am as I'm getting jacked up and they're putting my wet tires on, and I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna go racing in the rain. This is crazy because like my mindset is completely different now, and I'm just not prepared. And um, so I was just like, whoa, I'm just gonna try to survive and bring the car home in one piece, which ended up happening. I just kind of fell back. I think our setup was it was tricky, and then I ended up running over some paint, like a white line, and I spun, and I was just it sucked because I know better than that, and so I mean, it's just Daytona, and it was such a big learning experience for me. Now I can say that I've done a race in the rain. I feel like I could have done better. I don't know. It was just everything happened so fast, and I was trying to get things under my belt, and yeah. And then so ended up I think like 23rd, 22nd, not great. But I was excited because the next day I was going to start 12th out of 36 cars. That's actually the most we've had since 2016, and the most rookies and the most girls. So, record breaking numbers all across the board. But I had
The
a
two Sallys.
yeah, exactly. Two Sally M's even. Like it's crazy. Um, but no, I was really excited because I was gonna, start on the sixth row. I mean, I kind of had some hope that maybe I could move up and there was gonna be no rain. We are gonna be on sticker tires, perfect conditions, everything. I was like, all right, let's make some moves. Let's make today a better day. It's gonna be my comeback day. And then we take the green flag, and all of a sudden I see the two front runners like just collide and go right into the wall. And so the guy in front of me checks up, and I'm trying to hold it. I'm trying to hold the throttle and just drive by them because I see them coming down the track, but like I'm like I can make it. So I try not to check up too much, and I end up just getting plowed from the rear, and it just shoots me to the right into the wall. Which is actually a good thing because I feel like if I was right on the bumper of the guy in front of me, I would have gotten hit harder from like all different directions. I kind of hit the wall, and then like I spun around everything. I got hit once or something, and the carnage, it wasn't really that bad. I got to finish the race. I mean, I'm driving a straight line with the steering wheel like this, and like, my toes way out of alignment. I'm like 10 seconds off the pace. My car's pretty bad. The frame rails were bent, but I finished the race and I got points. And, I got experience driving a really, really ill handling car around until the checkered. So it could have been worse. I mean, a lot of people's cars were toast. They couldn't even finish the race. There was a couple cars that were totaled. Someone got a concussion. Like people got hurt. I luckily was able to walk away with just a sore neck. So could have been a lot worse. I think, it could have been better. Obviously, there could have been no crash at all, but considering everything, I'm grateful for the circumstances.
It's like the old cliche saying to finish first you must finish.
That is true. That is very
Yeah.
true. And also, you can't win the race in the first corner. Like, I don't know what people were thinking, but
And in all the years that I have watched or been to the Rolex, that is always one of the first things you hear the broadcasters say, and within easily the first 5 laps. Why are these guys driving like that? They can't win it. You're not going to win it in the first, you know, 2, 5, 10 laps, whatever.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but so let's back up again to last season, your rookie year. You started off at the mother of all racetracks again, Daytona. What was that your first time when you went out for practice driving at Daytona?
That was my first time. Yeah,
That was
so
your very first time.
I remember very distinctly, getting onto the banking for the first time, right? Being completely level and straight on the ground, and then you just drive onto the banking and you're just like, "Boop." Yeah, and I was like, "Oh my gosh," like, I didn't think it would be that steep, like, my stomach had just dropped, and I was like, "Whoa, this is really surreal." Like, I was kinda geeking out because 'cause I'm like, I'm driving at Daytona, but I was also like, oh my god, this is gonna get some getting used to because like I mean, you're hanging, your belts are just holding you in. You're kind of hanging there, so it was crazy. But yeah, that was an insane weekend because we just we were at Daytona, first race of the season. I'm just like, oh my god, everything's so new. Of course, I had done the last race of the season in 2023 at Petit Le Mans. That was my first MX5 Cup race, so I kind of
Yeah.
had an idea, but yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, just take everything that you may have learned from other racetracks and just throw it out the window because you're in a whole different universe when you're at Daytona.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So you got a chance to drive at all of the tracks that are going to be on the circuit, and hopefully maybe the Martinsville thing will happen again. What was your favorite that you got the chance to drive on last year that you were just like again? I'm gonna guess it was Daytona just because it's Daytona, but I mean, there's so many cool road courses with so much history that you guys get to run on. What was your favorite?
So, my favorite was actually Mid-Ohio.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but that track, like, the flow of it, it just clicks everything clicks with me really well, and I got into the zone both races, like, I was so focused, and my car was having issues, though, like, I had a crack in my airbox, so I was kinda down on power, but I just remember literally every lap, every corner. Like I was so focused just because of how everything clicked with me. I just love the flow of that track. I also like CTMP. I had my best finish there, sixth place. The last race, everything started to come together, and it's a very very ballsy track because you're kind of hanging everything out there, and you're going like 80 miles an hour, flying down this left hander. That's just it's just very intimidating, and I started to get the hang of it after we made some changes to the car, and I showed up the next day, and I was just ready to go out there and get some results, and yeah, and then there was a crash at the front of the field that kinda helped get me up there even more, but I was staying with the pack. I mean, I was fighting with Connor Zilisch, like, I think he was a lap down or something, but he went to pass me, and I kept my own because I had felt so confident there. I was starting to really get the groove. And so, yeah, I think that was a very pivotal moment as well. But overall, I would have to say Mid-Ohio was my favorite, you know, even though
awesome.
it's Ohio, like
Right, right. Oh, very cool. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a track with a huge amount of history as well. It's been there for a long time. That's awesome. And I mean, like I said, you guys get to race on some of the coolest road courses in the entire world.
I know.
So,
We're very lucky.
and then, like I said, you have coming up. You've had Daytona already, and was it two weeks from this past weekend is St. Pete,
It's actually in, like, 10 days,
a week
so
and like a week and a half. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because today's Wednesday. I'm sorry, I forgot what day it was. Um, yeah, very cool. And then you have a couple weeks, and then you go to the classic. You, the saying is, respect the bumps. You're going to Sebring. What is it? What's it like being again on another track like that that's been around forever?
so we're actually not going to Sebring this year. We're
You're,
going yeah,
oh,
no, it's Daytona, St. Pete, and then Barber.
all right.
Yeah, a lot of people they think that, but we're not. But we did do some testing at Sebring, and We drove there last year, so I do have input about it. I do like the track. It is very bumpy. I've also done an endurance race there, and of course, everything broke. I don't understand why they do endurance races there. It's so hard on equipment. But no, it's a very fun track, and there is a lot of history for sure. And it's literally an airport. Like the
Yep,
surface you're running on is it's insane. But I like the flow of that track as well. It's really fun. It's definitely a driver's track. There is a lot of drafting going on as well.
very cool. Yeah, because you did what, a World Racing League, if I remember correctly, event there.
I did. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So the first time you pulled in to Daytona to kick the year off last year, I know read a couple things on you about that you have possibly hopes of maybe getting into a prototype. What would be your preference, a GTP car or an LMP car,
Ooh,
LMP2 car?
yeah, that's honestly, I feel like I I wanna go down the sports car path, but I also like LMP2 cars. Ooh, man, I don't know. I would love to drive both of them. I'm not sure, it's hard to say, like, which one I would like better. Um, and I'm not gonna lie, after going to Daytona for the 500, I'm kinda thinking about NASCAR just because of the exposure and the publicity and also the type of driving, like, after Martinsville, I was like, "Wow, I mean, I was, like, P3 in practice 1 and 2 for, like, the first 10 minutes or something. Like, I got it. I was really picking it up and I was getting good, and I just didn't really know the racecraft, like holding the outside and, like, moving
Right.
people and stuff. But I don't know. Things are starting to change. Like, I have Iron Dames posters all over my room, and, like, that's what this livery is actually modeled after because that's kinda where I wanna go, like, the ladders of climb the ladders of IMSA, right? Um, to answer your question, I don't know. That's a really hard question. I would have to drive both of them. LMP2 seems very appealing, though, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. And a tiny bit cheaper too.
True.
Yeah. Like my son and I, when we were watching the 24, we got to talking, and I'm like, if you could pick one car to right here, right now, you can go out, you can write the check for it. I asked him, I said, what would you choose and why? And he said LMP2. He goes, it's a spec class. He goes, it just seems so ridiculously competitive because, I get spec engine, spec tires, spec, it's very much the same as with your cup car.
Mhm.
Um, and I had to agree with them. I mean, the GTP cars are cool, but I'm definitely more of an LMP2 fan.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's closer to a go-kart, right? I mean, there's, like,
Right,
less suspension and you're closer to the ground, a lot of downforce, so maybe I'd feel more at home, I don't know. I've driven on the sim and I'm like, "Oof, man, this is
right.
fast." It's really cool. So I can't imagine what it's like to drive one in real life, but
That's another thing with road racers too, is that you guys do a lot of work on the sims as compared to most other motorsports.
yeah.
What is it like being able to kind of pregame a little bit before you go? I mean, obviously it's different because when you hop in the seat of your actual race car, but does it give you a better mindset of what you're looking at?
Yeah, actually, before this call, I was on the sim, training for St. Pete, but yeah, it's it's a simulator, so it's not 100% accurate, and you're not actually getting the feel of the car, like tires to pavement, right? Because obviously track conditions, everything changes. But I use iRacing personally, and I find that the braking zones and the gears are very accurate. The feel of the car, it's debatable. It is what it is. It's the best I got. But the cool thing is that I can drive the same tracks in different cars and get the
Mhm.
feel of it in a fast car, a slow car. So when I actually get to the track in real life, I know which corners are coming up next. I know which bumps are where because it's very accurate. They're laser scanned everything. I know which gear to be in. I know all these things. And then I can also simulate race race situations, right? Racing scenarios where I'm on the outside here and I have to make it here and get on the inside of this corner, XYZ. Um, so it's very helpful. I don't know what I would do without it. I actually have triple screens, so it's like wrapped
You wrap
around.
around. Yeah,
Yeah, I used to do VR. I don't know, I like triple screens better. But it's cool because you can also race against your friends in the series, and
right.
kinda just see where you are when you stack against them. But yeah, I mean, I think it's crucial for especially road racers just because you gotta learn how to drive the car, especially these cars, like the momentum, you gotta learn how to drive it fast on the sim, and then it does translate. I mean, even though it's not 100% accurate, it definitely translates, and if you have a bad habit in real life, like you brake too deep and blow the corner and then, kill all of your mid-corner speed on the sim, you most likely do that in real life too, so you can kinda coach. It's like free coaching because you're not spending all the time and money on tires and running the car in real life. So yeah, very helpful, and I don't know what I would do without it.
That's awesome. All right. So the team, tell us about the team that you are driving for this year.
I am driving for JTR,
Jared Thomas.
Jared Thomas Motorsports Engineering. Yes. Um,
Very cool.
he has won the championship twice in a row, which is unheard of in the series. He's been racing MX5 Cup for, I believe, 6 to 7 years. So he has quite a bit of experience, a lot of coaching knowledge to share. So I am just soaking everything up like a sponge and learning a ton. So it's awesome. Yeah, very very happy with the team and excited to see what we can do, especially in St. Pete.
So what is it like for a young lady such as yourself to one, you're a professional race car driver. You travel all over the country and possibly leading into traveling around the world to race. What is that like for you?
Well, I can say that it makes me definitely different from my friends. um, it's not the normal teenage life. I guess I'm not a teenager anymore. I just turned 20. Um, but I kind of, racing takes up a lot of your life. It's not like a 9 to 5 job where once you clock out, you're done.
Right,
You're going into overtime. Like you have a lot of homework, especially as somebody who's trying to get funding and sponsorship by myself. I'm the one networking and putting deals together, writing proposals, along with training for my next race. Going to the gym. I was in the gym for 3 hours today, and then getting on the sim. And my dad and I will play ping pong for 45 minutes because that's the length of my races, and I have to stay focused, right? So there's a lot that goes into it, and it takes up most of my day. Um, and I mean, it bleeds into relationships as well. So it's kind of learning how to balance work and being a real life teenager and just being like a normal person. Because
right,
sometimes you just want to go hang out with your friends or watch a movie, but there's sacrifices that have to be made every single day where I'm like, no, actually, I have to go train or I have to go watch footage or I have to get on a Zoom call with a potential sponsor because I'm putting together everything. And if I'm not doing those things, then I'm just going to run out of money and I'm going to fail. Or I'm going to do really bad on track and, you know, total my car because I wasn't focused or I wasn't paying attention. Didn't do my homework away from the
right,
track. Right.
right.
So there's a lot of pressure um, to perform, first of all, and then a lot of pressure to get the money to keep going. So it's a lot. I'm not like a normal 20-year-old girl, right? I mean, it's just a fact of the matter. I mean, you could probably ask any race car driver that, and they're not living a normal life either. So, and then you're
Right.
also traveling all around the country all the time. Like I'm never home, so I'm home right now, but yeah, so it's crazy. Um, but I love it.
Cool. That's awesome. As long as it's something that you love. And then you've got you mentioned your dad. You have a lot of family support. I again watching the races. I've seen your dad at the events with you. It would it be tough to do without your family support system?
Absolutely. I say that there's all this pressure on me to do all this stuff, but none of this could be possible without my support system. And it's definitely not a one person job. There's a lot of people working behind the scenes to help me. And if I didn't have their support, it would be very challenging. So yeah, I mean, my dad has been there since day one. He's the reason why I got into it. And my mom, she's always trying to help, keep me balanced as a person. And, I need all the help I can get, honestly. So absolutely, it definitely all helps.
Very cool. Tell us about your crew, your team members.
So we have Jared Thomas. He is a teammate, on track. He's a driver, but he's also team owner and he's our coach. We have different drivers every race, some that are running the full season and some that are racing only a couple races or maybe even one race. We have Glenn McGee. He helps do data sometimes. We have Dave Thomas. He is also part team owner. He's Jared's dad. And then I have my crew chief, Brian. He's there and, he's on the radio with me. He helps belt me in. I talk to him about changes I want to make to the car. He's moral support too. Um, and yeah, I mean, that's kind of what Brad was last year. Brad was my crew chief as well. Kind of just you have one person all year that you can go to who understands how you communicate over the radio. Like if you like to talk a lot over the radio or if you don't want anyone to say anything because you're so focused, right? Some people they like silence. So yeah, I mean, I'm still learning everyone, honestly. I mean, I remember last year my first race with Spark Performance. I didn't really know many people, but at the end of the year we were all very very close. So I'm sure that'll be the same way with JTR as well.
Awesome. Now tell us about the sponsors that help your program out at every event.
Yeah, so we have you can see AE Victory Racing on the trunk. She is part owner in Shift Up Now. She actually invited me to do that GT4 race, the WRL race at Sebring. And then we kind of talked and ended up really liking me and, she wanted to help out. And then Cobble Commercial Properties, which is on the hood of my car, will actually be a bigger logo for St. Pete. My logo will be taken off and hers will be bigger. She actually invited me to go to the Daytona 500 this past week.
Nice,
Got to hang out with
nice.
her. She sponsors a couple of NASCAR teams, and she's just a really good person who wants to help and see women in motorsports succeed. So she's been with me since day one, actually, since my first ever MX5 Cup race in 2023. And then Ribtech and smartenergize.com on the side. That's my dad. Ribtech is his company in karting. He makes seats, he makes rib protectors, chest protectors. And then smartenergize.com is actually, we both do a side gig. We're both independent consultants for Ambit Energy. So what I do on the side is I take calls for customers and help them set up their electricity. It's pretty random, but it helps pay the bills. So definitely put him on the car as well because he helps me out when he can. And then Shift Up Now, all female driver organization, very very supportive of everybody, and they try to help everyone as much as they can. We host events every now and then. Very very talented group of young women and older women. And then Chance Hales is a personal sponsor who just wants to see me succeed. And her son's name is Chance Hales. He passed away a couple years ago in a motorcycle accident, but he used to do karting. And so she kind of lives notoriously through my racing and just wanted him to be on my car. So a lot of really cool sponsors this year and a lot of good people who just want to see me succeed. So very cool stories in all of the decals. But yeah, very, very excited.
Now you were involved with a charity over the winter. Why don't you
Yes.
talk a little bit about that? Because obviously, like I told you when I saw it, that's something that's near and dear to my heart with my son.
Yes. So for Martinsville, I actually had a completely different livery. It was like a one-off livery. Cobble Commercial Properties, which you see on the hood. It was a Cobble commercial and a Team Dakota car. So Team Dakota is actually a young man who died about 2 or 3 years ago from um, it's a congenital heart disease. It's called left heart. It's a
Hypo, hypoplastic left heart syndrome.
exactly. How yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get it. It's a lot of words.
Oh, that's
Um,
okay. Unfortunately, I know too much about it.
yeah, unfortunately, it's really sad. But he had the spirit of a fighter and a champion, and he loved racing. And his parents kind of got together to form an organization in his name, Team Dakota, and they're working together with Heartworks, which is an organization that is basically like the St. Jude for congenital heart disease, trying to get the word out and everything. And I was lucky enough to meet a man named Michael Roundtree. He owns a cell tower company in Texas, and he actually knew the Whitlatches, Dakota Whitlatch. This is his last name, so he knew the family, and he wanted to, instead of putting his company on my car, he wanted to put Team Dakota on my car to kind of give him a platform because he always told his parents that his name would be on a race car one day. And so, he wasn't there to see it, but I'm sure he was looking down from heaven and smiling when he saw that. So it was really cool, a very cool opportunity to get to represent Heartworks and Dakota and his family. Heartworks actually came out to the track and gave out some promotional stuff. They did some social media. We got a lot of airtime on the broadcast. We got to talk about it a lot. It was really cool. And then we did a autograph signing session on the track with our cars on the track and everything. And I was very surprised at the amount of people who responded to it. I mean, there was a lot of people who asked questions, but a lot of them were like, "Wow, my cousin's aunt has this disease," or someone along the line, and I would just realized how many people actually had it, and there's not enough exposure around it. There's not enough voices, elevating that platform. And they were kind of in a way like thanking me for putting it out there. And it was just an amazing opportunity. I hope that I get to do that again to kind of bring more awareness to it because I feel like that weekend was a very, very good success story. So, yeah.
Yeah, when you get involved in a charity that directly affects kids, it changes your world. It really does. And I applaud you for being part of that. And we're glad we could be, a tiny itty bitty little part of it by buying a couple of shirts. And do you still have the shirts for sale?
I do have a couple left, yeah, and I could always get more made if people are interested. I just wasn't sure because it was a one-off event, so I wasn't sure how many people would want
Right. Do
stuff.
I get 100 or do I get 1,000? Yeah,
Right, right,
pretty
exactly.
much. Um, if now people want to follow your racing, where do they find you?
SallyMottRacing.com, Sally Mott Racing on Instagram, Sally Mott on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube. Basically the same thing everywhere, Sally Mott Racing. But yeah, most platforms are
Nope.
up and going. Check out my website as well.
Awesome. Well, listen, Sally, I'm gonna let you get back to work, but I want to thank you for finally being able to connect with us. And best of luck. We'll be watching from what'd you say it was 17 degrees in Texas?
Yeah, it was actually snowing this morning. Yep,
That's a
17.
heat wave. It's 6 degrees at my house.
Oh man, that's oh.
I'd be outside in shorts and t-shirts shoveling right now if it was 17 degrees.
Oh man, I can't even imagine.
But like I said, I'm just very glad we were able to connect. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on and hang out with us. And I best of luck at St. Pete.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's gonna be very entertaining race already, I can tell you that. But yeah, anytime. I definitely enjoyed it. Your questions were really good. And yeah, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time as well.
All right. Have a great night and best of luck.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
You too.
All right, everybody. Sally Mott is our guest this evening. Um, in about 10 days, she will be racing in St. Petersburg, Florida. Um, IndyCar opening weekend. So be sure to check it out. It's on Peacock and check out her racing on Facebook, Instagram, and her website, SallyMottRacing.com. Have a great night. Take care, everybody. Have a great. We'll talk to you next week. Sally, again, thank you so much.
course.
All right. Have a great night, everybody. We are out of here.